Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
1-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Listen, there could be some more breaking news live right here on the early line on this Thursday morning regarding Dan Hurley being the main target. Are we okay? So don't mess around right now. Our production team in the back. JY is here. JY is here. Is he?
Another hour on the card.
I don't see him yet.
Yeah.
All right. JY is here. James Young is back. He was just with us for the last half an hour, and as we shared, as JY told you, he has some strong ties to the Hurley family from his days as a high school head coach in New Jersey. He is coached on the opposite sideline from Dan Hurley. He is coached on the opposite sideline from Dan's father and the high school coaching legend in Jersey City, Bob Hurley Sr. And JY has been hitting the phones, reaching out to those familiar with the family and this situation for further information on this Thursday. JY, in the last 2.5 minutes of that commercial break before hour number 3, what information did you just find out?
I got some another text message back from someone, and basically what I'm getting is I think Dan is starting to reach out to people about possibly getting a staff together, meaning going to LA. Someone that I know that is not on staff. I'm not going to name the name. I'm not going to name where it came from, but it's credible. I'm not naming my sources, but I think there is Dan right now, what he's doing and his family may be doing is he may be reaching out to people he knows that may want to be involved on the staff. And this may not be a coaching staff. This may be something on the analytics, to breaking down the film, a video coordinator, so on and so forth. I think this is not smoke, guys. This is fire. Like if you're up and you're Dan Hurley, if this isn't serious, you're not trying to start to reach out to people that you know and you trust about possibly coming onto your staff if you were to go to LA. Between that, the money, the coaching of LeBron, and the fact that he really in his mind, and someone I just reached out and texted to me, said it again, he wants to be an NBA coach. And this is an iconic franchise. When you think about iconic franchises, you think of honestly, Celtics, Sixers. Lakers, everybody else, not the Sixers, sorry. I'll put the Knicks over that. But I do have a sense that there is fire, and I'm going to say this. I said 40%, and then I said 50%. With the text I got, if the money's right, I think it's 80% that Dan Hurley goes to the Lakers.
Oof.
Donnie, anything to follow up on?
I love it. Like, I'm living in the moment right now. We might be getting those texts, those tweets by the end of the day, wrapping up that scenario. Yeah. And where Coach is right here. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Dan Hurley was asked on like a podium, are you going to Kentucky? He's like, yeah, come on now. I'm not doing that. So he hasn't put down these rumors yet. There's going to be a lot of smoke here. And again, it's the perfect fit. LA is the perfect spot for him to go. Superstar coach, superstar franchise. They need a long-term commitment. They have a lot of money to offer the coach. He should go there, and I think he will.
So here's my follow-up, JY. You were not the person that Dan Hurley was texting about joining his staff, right?
No, I mean, David, if it was, I wouldn't have told. I mean, actually, I would have told you. Actually, I don't know if I would have told you guys. I would have told you off there. I would have told you on there. I would have kept that. I would have kept that.
If we're not breaking that news on the early line, we're not friends anymore. But JY, we appreciate the information nonetheless. And I will say this. You talked about the monetary investment that the Lakers would be putting in. Highest paid head coach, as we shared earlier in the show, in the NBA is Steve Kerr with Golden State at $17.5 million per year. 3 NBA head coaches make $15+ million. It is Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, and Eric Spoelstra. Tyronn Lue just got the 5-year, $70 million contract extension. That's $14 million per year. Dan Hurley is easily in that ballpark, if not even becoming the highest paid coach in the history of the NBA. Yep.
I changed my mind. I want to go to LA. I don't think I get that much money in sports connected. Hey, Dan, call me, brother. I'm all ears. I'm sure I can I'll hang out with Dubsy in LA and have a studio out there. I'm sure I can find some time to still talk to you.
Oh,
what do you think?
True.
Listen, Dubsy doesn't work for us anymore. Friend of the program, but he doesn't work for us anymore.
Hey, man, studio's a studio is what we're saying here. Come on now, man.
That's fair enough. All right, JY, we appreciate it. We got to move on here. But you guys are making Donnie's day right now. Donnie's having the most fun ever. And this includes the series storyline conversation of yesterday's program. So we heard from JY. He gave his NBA Finals prediction to end out our second hour. It's where it remained. The Mavericks in 6. Donnie thinks it's Boston in 7. I think it's Celtics in 6 games as well. Now it's time to hear from the people. And I do look forward to comparing the results of today's Fade the Public poll, DRS, to what we saw last week when we asked the same question. Who wins the NBA Finals? We find out together in today's rendition of Fade the Public. Oh. So this is why we do what we do, 6 days apart. At the end of game number 5 of the Western Conference Finals last week, in which Dallas clinched the series in a spot in the NBA Championship Series, the following morning on Friday here on the early line, we asked the public, who do you think is going to win the NBA Finals here in 2024? In the public, 53% of the public said the Dallas Mavericks, despite Boston being greater than a $2 odds-on favorite, and that really remaining to be the case throughout most of this NBA postseason. But what have you done for me lately? Because that has now changed after a full week off from our last NBA playoff game. In today's Fade the Public poll, at SportsGrid on Twitter, more than 58% of the public is saying the Boston Celtics will win the 2024 NBA Finals.
Yep, so you separate yourself from who clinches last and what you saw with unbelievable performances. You get a week off to decompress, and you say, okay, who's the better team in this NBA Finals? Whose team is healthy? That's the Boston Celtics. I'm not saying necessarily that the Mavericks are injured, but we were waiting for a key component to come back, and looks like he is going to start game number 1. Cooler heads prevail, as we like to say, and I also voted for the Boston Celtics. And we're not going out on a limb here. It's not as if we're saying like, oh, man, Boston Celtics plus 680 to win the NBA Finals, and it's 58% of the people voting that way. No, Boston is supposed to win. They're the better team. They have home court advantage, and they're not a surprise. Like, wow, we didn't anticipate the Boston Celtics getting this far. Let's just ride that momentum. We've been riding the momentum for the Boston Celtics all the way back in September, all the way through the season. No surprise now. It's up to them to close it up. My vote went to the Celtics. They're the favorites to win the NBA Finals.
Yes, I would agree with that. In fact, the price has moved ever so slightly in Boston's favor since we asked the public on Friday 6 days ago. It was minus 220 there, pretty much the hypothetical line for an NBA Finals matchup between the Celtics and the Mavs. It's now minus 225 in favor of Boston. I voted for Boston last week. I voted for Boston once again. I have had a Boston to win the NBA championship ticket since March 20th. It was plus 220 at the time. Now it's minus 225. The Celtics have been the expected NBA championship favorites all season long. A co-favorite before the year got underway alongside Milwaukee. As the Bucks had a tumultuous opening half of the year, Boston quickly became the solo favorite to win the NBA title this season. And then about midway through that opening round against Miami, Boston trended into minus money, an odds-on favorite for the first time. As you share, Donnie, that's really what has been the case for the Celtics for the last month and a half.
Yeah, exactly. And we were looking to, sometimes you say that we used to use this with the Clippers, Ben, like, ooh, just get to the playoffs with them being healthy. Well, the Celtics, we never looked at that approach because we expected them to be there at the end, and they are completely healthy here after having the advantage of saying, hey, Kristaps Porzingis, just sit on the sideline. We've never even faced any adversity in the playoffs where he can be 100% ready to go for the NBA Finals. That's a really strong Boston team on a really good home court advantage, which they have for the NBA Finals. Let's see it play out tonight. I hope a long series, but I do think the Celtics win it.
Yeah, I do as well. We'll have some Major League Baseball conversations with our guy, Craig Mish, up next live right here on the Early Line.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
20-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Time for the daily basis on this Thursday, live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid. I am Ben. Donnie's on the right side. The man in the middle is our MLB insider and the host of Newswire, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That is Craig Mish. Craig, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us here on this Thursday.
Great to be here with you. You know, last night I had a chance to attend the Marlins-Rays game, And Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were there last night, Ben. And,
wow!
And Martin Lawrence threw out the first pitch. It was a very memorable first pitch. So, just wanted to throw that in there. You can see it on social media. I think we'll post it.
But you told us yesterday that Will Smith was throwing out the first pitch at the Marlins-Rays game.
Yes. So what happened was, for some reason, they decided they could only do one first pitch, which I've never heard of.
Well,
so they played rock, paper,
scissors.
And then Martin Lawrence won. And then he threw out the first pitch. Martin Lawrence not moving as well as he used to. It's a little different. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, all right. This is Donnie's favorite day of all time. All right, Craig, let's get to some other action that happened yesterday around Major League Baseball.
Bad Boys, too. Very underrated. Very underrated.
Love Bad Boys franchise. Love the Bad Boys franchise.
Very underrated film.
Donnie, you got to take it. Donnie, you take it next. Ask a question.
All right.
Anchorman 2. Not as good.
Exactly. No, not as good. But the Bad Boy franchise, very good. I will be participating and watching Bad Boys, whatever the trilogy is right now. But let's get to Paul Skeens and how quality he was yesterday, and also talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates' back-to-back victories over the Dodgers. If we're looking at Skeens now on the season, 3-0, an ERA of 3, a whip of 1, and 38 Ks already. Are we anticipating this to continue throughout the summer for you, Craig, where you take a look at Skeens and how good he's been? Or is this one of those where, hey, maybe they'll get him second time around when they see him? Talk to us about Paul Skeens and what you've seen now and what we can anticipate.
Yeah, he's the real deal. Yeah, this looks like a generational talent. All the comparisons made to Strasburg, I think, are legitimate. I know Strauss had some injury concerns over the course of his career. He missed some time. But let's also not forget he was the World Series hero for the Washington Nationals. So I don't know if Skeens is going to get there with Pittsburgh. And I also think, as we'll talk about with his market to win the Rookie of the Year, it's a really difficult one to handicap because even though the guy has thrown 1 billion innings in college, they're probably going to be careful with him in his first year. And so what does that mean in September? I can assure you, no matter what happens with Imanaga, this guy's going to pitch in September. So I think that would be a little bit of a concern for me with the market. But Skeens' popularity right now is equal to his talent. It's off the charts.
Yeah, so Craig, when we look at the National League Rookie of the Year odds, Shota Imanaga remains the favorite at plus 135, but Paul Skeens is creeping ever closer to being booked with the shortest price. If you were in the risk room for the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, who would you set as the betting favorite to win the NL Rookie of the Year award?
Yeah, it still has to be Imanaga because, again, as the season goes on, if the Pirates aren't in it, I don't think their team is going to look the same the last few weeks of the season, and that definitely could cost them the award. Now, there are some benefits to the club in terms of international free agent money that they could win and also extra draft picks if Skeens wins the award. So I think that there is this balance that's going to be played. But inevitably, Ben, I guess the question that I would ask is is it worth it to potentially risk something with Skeens to get yourself an extra draft pick or potentially save him because in 6 years he's going to be $300 million. So they're going to have to walk that line in the end. But right now, Imanaga, to me, is still the guy, and I can count on him as long as even if the Cubs are out of it, I think you can count on Imanaga going the distance this year.
A couple good rookie pitchers there with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And again, we'll see if they continue with the Pittsburgh Pirates over the next couple years. But let's take a look at the Central Division. The Reds pulling up the rear here, taking on the Chicago Cubs. This line is a minus 126 at the FanDuel Sportsbook currently as a favorite to the Reds today. 77 degrees at first pitch and a wind blowing out tonight. Are we looking at runs? Are we looking at Assad here? And Assad, will he continue to be a solid pitcher here for the Cubs?
Yeah, Assad's been great. Hunter Green generally pretty consistent. Reds playing much better, 7-3 in their last 10. Cubs not playing as well. I'll probably lean toward the Reds today. Remember, at the end of the season, if the projections are even close to where they had Cincinnati, they're going to be a much better team in the second half than they were in the first. Now, again, there's no guarantee of that. But I did not anticipate the Reds losing 90 to 100 games, guys. So I do think that in a one-game scenario, you certainly never know. For me with baseball, as I've talked about here on the show, once you get to more than 1.25 or 130, I'm usually somebody that looks somewhere else. But I do think the Reds probably win today.
The Cubbies, in a short 2-game set against their inner city foes in the Chicago White Sox, were tested by Chicago despite the Sox now dropping 13 games in a row. Yesterday at Wrigley, Mike Tauchman, walk-off solo shot in the home half of the ninth for Chicago. The Cubs back to an even 500 at 31-31. Walk-off yesterday up in the sixth as well. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, the walk-off RBI winner for Toronto as the Blue Jays get their first victory of the series against the Orioles. Fourth and final game of the set. Some day baseball up in Toronto, Craig, with the Blue Jays a -118 home money line favorite. Will we see a series split here in the Battle of the Birds, or will the O's be the series winner?
Yeah, tough to call here. As you see, the line is really close. Probably lean a little toward the over here of 8.5. I know, generally speaking, in a day game or a situation like this, players are swinging early and often, and some players sitting. But I don't think that the Blue Jays can take a day off at all. And I know that the Orioles seem to be playing really hard for their manager, Brandon Hyde. So I expect some runs to be scored today. Maybe it's something you play live midway through the game and see where it's going. But bullpen's being used a lot last 3 days. I like the over here.
The Jays, 3 games below 500. They need to start winning games, as Craig was alluding to. Total 8.5. You guys will like this. Cade Povich makes his major league debut for Baltimore. The lanky lefty, a guy I covered in high school at Bellevue West High School in Bellevue, Nebraska. Huh?
Very impressive.
Is it?
What'd you say?
You know, I would maintain Bad Boys 5 could be the best.
I like
if they decide to go that route.
Let's get back to Martin Lawrence. That was moving, Craig. That was Martin Lawrence moving out there.
What happened to game
Midnight movie.
Take it to break.
Midnight movie, Donnie. Midnight movie.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke Jay. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
We're wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
20-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
More around the Major League Baseball slate on this Thursday. A rainout yesterday in Cleveland, as Donnie shared, could be potentially in the cards with some bad weather expected, so a postponement. We play again between the Guardians and the Royals bright and early on this Thursday. 1:11 p.m. Eastern time, scheduled first pitch in the land where the Guardians are a favorite at home, minus 154. Brady Singer set to get the start for the Royals. He was scratched from his last start, now a day after when he was expecting to get back on the bump. What plays out today in Cleveland?
Yeah, extra time for a pitcher, like an extra day, usually a good thing here. It gets some more little gas in the tank. But if we take a look at Tanner Bybee, the starter here for the Cleveland Guardians, some pretty good splits, particularly, Ben, over the past 30 days. 114 batters he's faced. Get this, a 113 ISO and a 248 weighted on-base percentage. Weather conditions in Cleveland today, 73 degrees, but a crosswind going from left foul pole to right foul pole at about 11, 12 miles an hour. Shouldn't really have too big of an impact on this game. But really the focus, sometimes you take a look at Singer, we expected to be starting yesterday. Game got postponed. We'll start tonight. So the same thing will apply. Last 30 days, he has struggled with left-handed batters at 244 ISO and a 428 weighted on base percentage. And you look right in the middle of that lineup. So the same thing for me today. Not in love with the side per se, but Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor, two batters here that will be batting from the left-hand side with elevated numbers against right-handed pitchers over the past month. That's where I'd be looking to go today for Cleveland. Cleveland, good ball club. Probably going to win the game, but I think Ramirez and Naylor are going to be the backbone for them winning the game tonight, maybe an RBI shot apiece.
Bo or Josh Naylor, just so we clarify.
Oh, did I say Bo by accident? Josh Naylor, I meant that.
No, I know. I just want to make sure because sometimes you see it flash on the box
Throw it in
score.
there.
We get a Naylor RBI, but we need to make sure we have the correct brother.
Yeah, should throw it in. Like get both of them. Yeah.
That's not a bad bet. A Naylor RBI.
Not a bad bet.
All right.
Yep.
We'll keep that in mind. We'll talk to our folks at FanDuel. Oh, bang. The Guardians, by the way, the only other team alongside the Yankees and the Phils to reach that 40-win threshold. 40-20, the record for Cleveland, atop the American League Central right now by 5 games over these Royals. But again, the American League Central, the only division in baseball that has 4 teams at 500 or better. Not what we expected, perhaps, for this division before the year got underway, but should be competitive the rest of the summer. Cleveland, an odds-on favorite at minus 135 to win this division. Twins, the second-best price at plus 230. KC in second place, but third-best number at plus 430. Speaking of Minnesota, they have dropped 2 straight to start this week up in the Bronx against the Yanks. In fact, Minnesota has lost 5 in a row against the Yankees this year. New York overall on a 7-game win streak. They hope to continue tonight up in the Bronx. Minus 146 in favor of the Pinstripes, over under 8.5. Will the Yankees sweep the Twins for a second straight time this season?
They probably will because they're a better baseball team. And overall, look at that price point here. Not the side itself, but that 8.5 total. I think we get runs tonight. 78 degrees, that first pitch, a wind blowing out about 5-6 miles an hour to left center field. So won't be too big of a hindrance tonight. We're saying like, hey, I would really like 15-mile-an-hour winds and to get more runs here. We should be just fine. Here's the reason being. Pablo Lopez on the season has been a good pitcher, but over the past 30 days, he's not pitching like what we saw most of last year. How about this, Ben? A 207 ISO and a 351 weighted on base percentage. If you break it down, he's getting pummeled by left-handed batters. A 234 ISO and a 363 weighted on base percentage. So Verdugo and Soto pop up right away in the middle of that lineup. Anthony Rizzo is a left-handed batter, but he's really struggled against right-handed pitching over the past month. But also, you take a look at those Judge numbers. You take a look at those Stanton numbers. The only reason why I'm not bringing them up because I do think the left-handed batter should be the highlight of the lineup. But if you tell me right now you want to go Judge Stanton for multiple RBIs tonight, I'm not going to fight with you. Now let's flip it over to Marcus Stroman, who's been filthy as a right-handed pitcher against right-handed batters for both the season and the past 30 days. However, his season numbers to left-handed batters for both the ISO power numbers at 250 and weighted on base percentage at 381. Transfer that over the last 30 days, 246 ISO, 357 weighted on base percentage. He's struggling. The one thing that the Twins can do, Ben, they can throw a lot of left-handed batters out, and they will do that tonight. So instead of taking a look at a side, which again, I think the Yankees win, I think we have some runs tonight coming in the Bronx. I would like them to get 9 or more runs here.
8 the total by the Bay in Oakland. Quickly here, DRS. The Mariners open up this series as a favorite on the road, minus 142 against the A's. Who wins today out in Oakland?
Yeah, Seattle should be able to handle their business. Crawford, Moore, Rodriguez, and France, high numbers against left-handed pitching. And you take a look here at J.P. Sears, left-handed pitcher struggling over the past month against right-handed batters. But if we flip it over and say who's on the mound here for Seattle, it's Brian Wu. Been filthy over his last 98 batters, an 0.43 ISO, 129 weighted on base percentage in a pitcher's ballpark. He should deal against the Athletics today.
The series finale, by the way, not the opener, my mistake. More on the early line next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
1-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The NBA Finals finally start tonight. Still 2 days away from the start of the Stanley Cup Final on a Saturday night in Sunrise, Florida, between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Joining us now live right here on this Thursday, 48 hours out from the NHL, it is Pete Jensen. Pete, as always, we appreciate the time as we get ever so closer to the start of the Cup Final on Saturday. Where's your excitement level at the moment?
Yeah, it's great. A great matchup, really, on paper. The offense of Edmonton, the vaunted power play of Edmonton against a defensive possession-savvy team led by Alexander Barkov, who is the Selke Trophy winner this season as top defensive forward. Gus Forsling has been a beast on his own end and chipping in points, too. Those are like the shutdown crew. They just shut down the Rangers. They shut down the Rangers power play. They're going to look to do it again here and avenge losing in the Cup final last year to Vegas.
So as we get ready for this Stanley Cup Final on a Saturday night in Sunrise, Pete, we have the Florida Panthers back into the Cup Final for the second consecutive year. The Edmonton Oilers here for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Their last trip, 2006. As you look back on how this Stanley Cup postseason has played out, on how the entirety of the National Hockey League season has got us to this point, how likely did you see it at any point throughout this run that we would have Edmonton versus Florida with a Stanley Cup at stake?
So back in the preseason and also the start of the playoffs, I did pick Edmonton to win the Cup. So I'm happy to see them here. It's one of those things where you thought they were capable, but remember early on in the season, they were one of the worst teams in the league. They had to make a coaching change. Yeah. So they kind of scared me and everybody else that was backing them a little bit with that early season slide. They lost that game to the Sharks, who were the worst team in the league that one game. But they've turned it around under Chris Knobloch, led by McDavid, Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard, that full-fledged breakout season and postseason. So long story short, I'm not surprised to see Edmonton here at the end of the day. But Florida, I was a little lower on in the preseason. I actually didn't even think I had them making the playoffs just because they were dealing with some significant injuries entering the season. Brandon Montour, Aaron Ekblad, maybe Cup final hangover, that type of thing. But Florida, I think, reminded us like a month or two into the season, they were really one of the best possession teams in the league, and they were out for some blood this season in terms of avenging last year. So if you asked me in about December or January if this could be the matchup, I probably would have said it wouldn't be number one on my list, but it would probably be in my top 5 or something like that.
Pete, let's take a look at the tail of the tape here between the two teams. No surprise here. Obviously, you're going to have a good record if you advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. 12-5 for the Panthers, 12-6 for the Oilers. And also, no surprises here. Guess which team scored more goals here in the playoffs? It's been the Edmonton Oilers, 63-55 over the Panthers. But also in the same exchange, which team stopped more pucks? It was the Florida Panthers, only giving up 39 goals to the Edmonton Oilers, 47. When we look at this matchup style, who do you think it benefits? Are we getting a more offensive series, which means the Edmonton Oilers will carry that, or more defensive series from the Florida Panthers?
If it gets higher scoring, that'll certainly benefit the Edmonton Oilers. I'm curious to see how both teams react in game one. I tend to lean toward the fact that Florida has had a tougher road. Edmonton has had some trouble despite having an easier road. So maybe game one could be a reality check for the Edmonton Oilers. Maybe even like a multi-goal win for Florida. We've seen a couple of those massive wins at home in the playoffs. But they did drop game one against the Bruins, so they're not invincible either. It's going to be a great series. I think that Stuart Skinner versus Sergei Bobrovsky, that's at least a slight advantage in Florida's favor, with Bobrovsky being a 2-time Vezina winner. And Skinner, let's be honest, he was good last round and stole game 6 and a couple of those games along the way against Dallas, but he lost his job in round 2 against Vancouver, and they needed Calvin Pickard to pick up the slack a little bit for a couple games there.
So Florida, the home ice favorite for game number 1 at minus 137 on that money line. As you saw in the series outright numbers to win the Cup, the odds makers favor the Panthers as well at minus 128. Pete, you just gave us a couple of the names that we need to know for the Stanley Cup Final. But when you look at this series in its entirety, what do you believe is the key matchup that will dictate who wins the Cup this season?
I think it's got to be the center matchups, because McDavid and Draisaitl have been the two best players in the NHL scoring-wise for, at least 5 seasons now, fantasy or reality. They also both always get it done in the playoffs, win or lose. Sometimes they're leading a round, or they're leading the playoffs after 2 rounds when other guys haven't caught up to them after 3 or 4 rounds. So that's what we've seen in recent years. If Barkov, the top defensive forward in the league this year, can contain McDavid or Draisaitl, and then Sam Bennett, who has been explosive this postseason. He's a physical force and plays on the same line as Matthew Tkachuk, who's another grinder who can score. If that Tkachuk-Bennett line can impose its will on either Draisaitl or McDavid or cancel them out, that'll be enough for me. I would expect Draisaitl and McDavid to have big series, point per game or better, but anything less than that, I don't think Edmonton can win this thing.
As a fan's approach to, we always like more hockey. That's why we get excited for overtime, free hockey here. If we're looking at the series prices, games 4, 5, 6, and 7, and the length of it here, the favorite for the series to end actually is listed in game 7 at a plus 194 price. If we're being honest about the series itself, is this an extended series for you, Pete, or could it be a quicker series than maybe many anticipated?
So Florida had a couple of 1-goal wins against the Rangers, even though they outplayed the Rangers heavily, shot attempts and stuff throughout that series. They were still close games. So my pick was Florida in 6. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see it be Florida in 5. I don't think it's going to be a sweep either way. I would expect Edmonton to win one of those and grind out one of those 2 home games that they're going to get, games 3 or 4 or 6. So my pick would be 6, but I think that Florida, over the course of this series, will probably put the clamps down and claw their way to a championship. So that's why I got Florida. Despite picking Edmonton in the preseason, I've seen a lot here in the postseason, and I just like so much more of what I've seen from the Panthers. I mean, even game 6 for Edmonton against Dallas, they only had 10 shots on goal, and they somehow won that game. That's a great story for them, but can that really continue? I don't think so.
So, Pete, if you know the National Hockey League, if you're even relatively familiar with hockey, you know the best player in the sport plays for Edmonton, and his name is Connor McDavid. Yet he has never played in a Stanley Cup final with the Oilers in what could be his de facto coming out party to everybody on the most significant stage of the sport. McDavid is the favorite to win the Conn Smythe. That is the playoff MVP within the Stanley Cup postseason at plus 200. Pete, do you think Connor McDavid will match expectation for the Oilers in the Stanley Cup Final?
I think he will, win or lose. He was dealing with an injury at the tail end of the regular season, but as we saw over the course of the playoffs, he's leading the NHL in playoff scoring this year. But even in Game 6, like, he had that crazy dangle. That's McDavid-esque, right? That's the generational talent that we've known all through the years with that game-opening goal in Game 6. So, yeah, it wouldn't be – I know you can get good odds on him to score the game-opening goal in Game 1 or to have a multi-goal game. I think it's the same number on FanDuel. So either of those could happen easily, and you're getting double-digit odds type thing on that. So I really like those plays. Both things are certainly possible with a talent like him. And this is legacy type stuff for McDavid, where if you're a casual sports fan out there, we're always following these different storylines with the larger than life athletes. I mean, he's the best player in the sport right now, getting there for the first time. Can he will his team to victory? You could actually, if you're backing Edmonton to win the series, you get the better number on him to win the Conn Smythe. And I think if Edmonton wins it, he's most likely going to win that award.
A great handicap there, to say the least. Donnie likes to bring up of number 99 in Edmonton, the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Maybe number 97 will be remembered fondly after this Stanley Cup final as well. Pete Jensen from the NHL, we appreciate the time on this Thursday. Thank you for being here. NBA Finals, game number 1, a full preview next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
3-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The day has finally arrived. After a full week without a single NBA playoff game, opening night of the 2024 NBA Finals is here. Tonight inside TD Garden in Boston, it's the Celtics in the chase for ring number 18 against the Dallas Mavericks. Back into the NBA Finals for the first time since 2011, for the third time in organization history, looking for their second Larry O'Brien trophy, which is what they accomplished over a decade ago. DRS, it's game number 1. we have seen some prices move ever so slightly in the series odds, in the finals MVP odds. Who's going to lead this series in points and assists? And finally, we have reached Thursday night in game number 1. The odds for this opening game shifting ever so slightly as well. Now a 6.5-point number in favor of Boston. Line opened up at 6 in favor of the C's. The over-under up by a full point from where it was at open at 215 and a hook. How does game number 1 finally play out tonight in Boston?
And here's the questions that we have to ask, right? And this is the great thing about the FanDuel Sportsbook and the legalization of sports gambling. You can actually watch a couple minutes in this game, a full quarter, a full half before you decide to jump in. Because I'm being honest, and I always like to be honest with the people out here. I'm really interested to see how this first quarter goes because that layoff has been so long. You could see it. Wow, the Mavericks really came to play. They're stunning the Boston Celtics, who haven't played and had a longer break than the Dallas Mavericks. Or, this is what we expected. Boston's really good at home. They take control. They're up 13 points at the end of 1. And also, how many points are we going to get in this game? 215.5. I do tend to agree, though, Ben, with that number slightly inching higher because the times where you would have the issue is, hey, this team just got done at game number 7. 48 hours later, they're playing in a different city, in a different building. Do they have their legs underneath them? The legs will be underneath both of these teams. I'm just worried about the quality early on until you say, okay, been there, done that before. Yes, we've had a break here, but we're ready to get started and get it underway. So I would lean more towards the over than the side itself. But having said that, I do look at the betting statistics that the FanDuel Sportsbook does give us, and it's heavy. Where the Dallas Mavericks, and just the old rule of thumb, heavy public support on a dog, price point actually going in the opposite direction more times than not. The team like the Boston Celtics, who are not getting as much exposure, are the team that usually carries it. And if you do think the Boston Celtics are win, it's a good chance they're probably going to cover the 6 to 6.5 points here. So if I had to make a decision, I like the total to the over 215, and I would go towards the Boston Celtics at home as a completely healthy team on their home court that for the remaining parts of the regular season, they were dominant at home, and I'll stick with it.
Trend perspectives to know tonight. Boston has been booked as a favorite in all 14 of their postseason games. In all 14 games, the line has been at least 7.5 in favor of the C's. So this will be the shortest number in Boston's favor for any of their NBA playoff games in this postseason run. At home, they have only been a single-digit favorite once in their 8 home playoff games inside TD Garden, where Boston has had home floor advantage throughout this NBA playoff run with the NBA's best regular season record. 8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up, 4-4 against the spread. Again, a double-digit favorite in 7 of those 8 games. But the Celtics have only covered once in their last 6 playoff games to close out the series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, of course, in those 4 games against Indiana, the only time Boston had covered, game number 2 in their only other game as a single-digit favorite inside TD Garden. Now to the Mavericks' perspective. Dallas has been sensational as an underdog throughout this postseason. 6-1 straight up as an underdog, meaning if they cover a number as a dog, they are going to win outright. 7-2 straight up on the road, an underdog in 7 of those 9 games on the road. The only 2 times they were booked as a favorite, games 1 and 5 in their opening round set against the LA Clippers. Also DRS for that total, 215 and a hook. Both teams enter having gone over in 5 of their previous 6 playoff games. But for the Dallas Mavericks, when the total has been 210 or higher throughout this postseason, that's been 9 times, Dallas has actually gone under those totals that have been higher than 210 in 7 of those 9 playoff games. This is the highest number for Boston that has not been involved in the series against Indiana. The Pacers playing at a fast pace. Those over-under numbers are always going to be high. In the 10 games against Miami and or Cleveland, this is the highest number for the Celtics.
Yeah, and it should be interesting to watch it play out, and also the defensive philosophy, Ben, that we're going to get from the Boston Celtics. And the wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece. Hey, maybe can get you 8 points, maybe get you 6 rebounds, play a couple good minutes there, and help your team out. Kristaps Porzingis is an all-star caliber player that you're adding back to your lineup. Sure. A guy that averaged 20 and 7. And that wasn't a guy averaging 20 and 7, like, let's just say, in Washington, where it's like, well, who else is going to score the points? You're on a deep and talented Boston Celtics team. If you see him back and on it right away, that's going to be a tough vibe there for that locker room for the Dallas Mavericks, knowing like, hey, we know what this team is capable of. Now they're full go once again, and every one of those pieces working in unison here. That's something I want to see play out at this point. So from my perspective, that first quarter is going to show me a lot. And it doesn't mean that Porzingis has to come out and score 9 points in the first quarter, going 3 from 3-point range. Let me just see how fluid he is on the court, because that's another added piece that we really haven't seen throughout the playoff run for the Celtics here, Ben.
15.5 is the points prop for Kristaps Porzingis, who said, is he 100% healthy? KP even said, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm healthy enough to be out there for this NBA Finals series. I thought George Bilecki, who joined us yesterday from Boston, works for Nesson, of course, made a great point about where KP's true influence is in this series, being the rim protector that the veteran Al Horford is not. Kristaps Porzingis injured in game number 4 of the opening round series against Miami, so didn't play a ton, but in the first 3 games had at least 2 blocks. His block prop tonight is 1.5. I like the over in that number. And of course, you can be an influence on the defensive end without just blocking shots. You can change shots. You can force guys from staying out of the paint or being so willing to go inside down low. Plenty more of a prop conversation for game number 1 of the NBA Finals tonight. And of course, the best bet of the opening night in Boston. Up next, live right here on the early line.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
20-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game number 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals tonight inside TD Garden. The Boston Celtics, a 6.5-point home favorite against the Dallas Mavericks. The total currently stands at 215 and a hook. The highest points prop for game number 1 tonight, belongs to Luka Doncic. It is 31.5. He went over that number in 4 of the 5 games against Minnesota. He scored 28 points in all 5 of the games, at least, of the Western Conference Finals. DRS, if Dallas stays inside the number tonight, if the Mavericks maybe even steal the opening game of the NBA Finals in Boston, what do the Mavericks need out of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving?
Everything. That's the simple term here for that. And I know Coach came on to say they need to find 50 points. They need more than that. We need 65-plus points if you're going to go into the Garden there after a rested break, and we're looking at that points total around a 215. Now, I told you, I do think Boston wins and covers tonight. But from, a content purpose, if I wake up tomorrow and it's the Dallas Mavericks went into TD Garden and won 121 to 99, that would just set this series on its complete turn. And I would love to see that. But having said that, I don't think that's going to happen. But to your question, Luka's got to be everything. When you said, give me your seasonal average, he averages 20, almost a triple-double for the season. He's got to go beyond that tonight if they want to win this game and this series. So my expectations for him, he needs to go high. But having said that, I'm betting on him to go low. 31.5 points, extended layoff. The Celtics are going to be at full force on defense. I'm going under 31.5 points on Luka tonight. Look, he could score 28 points. That's a great game. Still doesn't cover it here. I'll go under.
A triple-double as well in 2 of the 5 games against Minnesota for Luka Doncic to record a triple-double tonight in game number 1 of the NBA Finals, plus 380. Kyrie Irving, 30-plus in 3 of the 5 games against Minnesota as well. Jason Tatum, highest points prop on the other side for the Boston Celtics, 27.5. Jaylen Brown, 23 and a hook. Who do you think steps up on this most significant of stages for the C's tonight?
It's got to be Tatum, doesn't it? Set the tone for this series. Because the last thing you want for the Boston Celtics, don't play well in game number 1, lose game number 1, and Jason Tatum score 16 points, right? You can hear the cat calls coming right away at that point. Establish yourself as the best player in this series, which, again, there's a lot of great players, but Tatum needs that big performance tonight. It's not a cop and say, well, Don, of course we need Tatum to come up big for the Celtics. If you want them to win the series, win tonight, and get a cover, he's got to establish that tonight, and I think he will.
5.5 assists as well. My series special that we had during the Pick 6 was Jason Tatum to have 5 or more dimes in every game in the NBA Finals, something that he has done in 8 of the last 9 for Boston in this postseason. So now we give you a best bet for game number 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals tonight. There is so much to like. There is so much to fill up on the card. We do that here before we say farewell on this Thursday. Before we say goodbye, it is time for Bye Bye Bye. So Donnie doesn't even get that joke. That's our producer, John James, who 2 years ago, the last time that Boston was in the NBA Finals, was in attendance for one of those games against the Warriors inside TD Garden, where he will be once again tonight in game number 1. He was yelling, bye, 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 not for a best bet, but at Draymond Green as he was getting ejected back in the 2022 NBA Finals. We hope to see a similar thing. Inside jokes that Donnie doesn't even get. That was fun.
Love it. That's a good one there. I thought it was actually Lisi screaming bye, bye, bye on some crypto play that he had, but neither there nor there. We ready for best bets? We ready for the best bets of the night here? What do we got?
Are we? Take us away, DRS.
All right, come on. Let's get to the Bronx. Last night we lit a cigar with Corey Seager by getting an RBI last night. By the way, dude got injured, but still came away with an RBI. I mean, that's a professional right there. Juan Soto's going to do damage tonight in the Bronx. Take him to get an RBI at that price point of plus 130 tonight. He's dominant against right-handed pitchers. Lopez is struggling with lefties. Bang it. Bang it.
Listen, if you hadn't hit Seager and Seager, but Seager, I would have been more mad than I am. But we just set up the last 20 minutes as the full preview of the NBA Finals in game number 1 tonight for you to give us a Major League Baseball best bet.
What's
the best bet in game 1 of the NBA Finals? We haven't had a week of NBA playoff action.
Look, Martin Lawrence not moving around that well. Who knows if Porzingis is going to move around that well tonight? That's how we'll break that one down, all right? That's where we'll go with that best bet.
Oh, my God. All right, here's my best bet. It is Kristaps Porzingis over 1.5 blocks. Also, a sprinkle on Luka Doncic to be the game's leading three-point shooter at plus 180 in terms of made threes. We'll talk to you tomorrow. A Friday is always a fun time. On the early line, it starts at 8 a.m. Eastern.